Hey, how's it going? Do you love breakfast sandwiches? If you do, you probably either got them from the freezer section in the grocery store or you get them at a fast food place like McDonald's. But what if you could make them really easy and better at home? If that's you, you might enjoy this review for the Hamilton Beach Breakfast Sandwich Maker. It might be just what the doctor ordered. So you ready? Let's get into this. Just a quick note, my reviews are based upon the things that I think are important. That might be a little bit different for you, so what I recommend doing is after watching my video, you watch a couple of other videos made by different content creators. That way you get a wider range of likes and dislikes and testing criteria. That in turn should help you make a more informed buying decision, and that is the most important thing of all. This is the Hamilton Beach Breakfast Sandwich Maker. Essentially, it's kind of a funny looking glorified toaster. This is the 120 volt version of it, and surprisingly, this thing uses 1200 watts of power. You wouldn't think a little thing like this uses that much, but there you go. If we want to measure this thing out, we are talking about something that's 10 inches wide. From the back to the front, we're looking at about 7¼ inches. And for height, we're just under 6 inches tall. Looking around this guy, it's super simple. In fact, there's not really any controls on it per se at all. If you look on the front, there's a power indicator that lets you know when it's turned on, a preheat light that comes on, obviously when it's preheating, and you have a little timer right here that you can add and subtract time by 30-second intervals right here. There's no temperature selection on this machine at all. This just controls the timer right here. It doesn't control whether the thing is on or not, which leads to the first weird thing about this, which is the fact that if this guy is plugged in, then this thing is on. So if I plug it in, it starts preheating immediately, and the heat doesn't go away until I unplug it from the wall.
Are you serious?
That's weird, and I kind of hate it, but that is what we're looking at with this guy. As far as any other controls on this, there's really nothing. If you look back here, there's the power cable, and then you just have this little loop that runs from the bottom section up to the top section. And all this is protected wires supplying power to this top plate so it could heat it. If we open this up, you can see exactly what we got in here. You've got two separate little sandwich containers. You've got a loop for the top section, along with a little slide out portion right here that is used to keep your egg in place. So obviously the egg is gonna have to go in this top part. And if you flip up these top sections, then you got your bottom loop that is just a pass-through loop. In here, you would put your bottom bun and your meats and cheese and all that other kind of stuff. The entire surface of these rings and these little slide out plates and the top section up here and the bottom surface down here are all coated with non-stick coating. Hamilton Beach doesn't specify in their literature what type of non-stick coating this is though. It may be Teflon, it may not be Teflon, it could be a ceramic coating. Kind of odd that they wouldn't disclose exactly what type of non-stick coating is on this right on the packaging, but that's something I've been noticing a lot from a lot of different appliances from different manufacturers, and to me I just can't explain why that is. A lot of them turn out to be nano ceramic since that is the safest of the non-stick surfaces, but you would think that you would advertise that pretty plainly because it would be a good selling point, but here we are. Also, one weird bit of information that you get out of the user manual for this, it does tell you to spray all of these surfaces with non-stick cooking spray whenever you're using them to help prevent sticking. Number one, it's a non-stick surface, so you shouldn't be getting sticking anyway. And number two, non-stick sprays damage non-stick coating, and that doesn't really matter whether it's a ceramic non-stick or a Teflon or a PTFE free non-stick or whatever it is. That's just been something that you've always been told not to do. So for me personally, I wouldn't recommend spraying anything on this, especially since it's not really even necessary. These little pods pop right out of this machine, so if you wanted to clean them, it does make the cleanup a lot easier, especially since this part right here is all flat surfaces. Not really a problem at all, but this ledge isn't very big either, so if you are making something and it spills over this edge right here, there's a high likelihood that it gets into this crack right here, and that is hard to clean, especially if that happens on the back. That happened to me twice during testing, but the first time was when I had just got it out of the box and I didn't know what I was doing at all, so that one was on me. You can see though, looking at this, it does look brand new still. It does clean up really easily. Little bit less so on this front, but still a lot easier than you would think. Hamilton Beach does kind of contradict themselves a little bit in the manual about cleaning of this stuff. It does say that these are dishwasher safe, but it also says to hand wash them to keep them as nice as long as possible. I guess it's good that they said that because that's something I always say to everybody anyway, whether the thing is dishwasher safe or not. Always hand wash, you have more longevity, and you run less risk of messing up your non-stick coating surfaces. When you do clean these, they can be a little bit cumbersome because this part slides in and out like this. And I wouldn't think that you want to be taking this thing apart all the time either. But if you are hand washing this, these will tend to flop around a little bit on you. Also, this will scrape up against the bottom of this top ring. Now, since this is a non-stick coating that's on here, see how you can hear that? Scraping right on that plate. That's gonna wear the non-stick coating right off of this thing eventually.
What?
You really can't be scraping it with stuff, and that sound really is not good at all. How long it'll put up with that before you have a real problem is kind of hard to say, but I would imagine you're gonna start seeing wear on this in pretty short order. Okay, so the way this thing works is, assuming that this was plugged in already and preheated, you would flip all of this up, put your bottom breads in right there. Then you would add in whatever types of meats you're gonna use. Those all have to be pre-prepared, pre-cooked meats. You cannot put anything raw into this at all. So if you were thinking you wanted to cook your own sausage for a sausage muffin or something like that, you're not gonna do it in this machine because it cannot cook that in here. In fact, the meats really aren't making very much contact with the hot surfaces anyway, except for the bottom of this plate maybe, which is not going to be anywhere near as hot as cooking on a regular skillet or anything like that. In addition to those meats, you put your cheese or vegetables or whatever else you want to put onto them before you flip this top piece down. Just keep in mind though that the bottom ring right here isn't all that thick, so remember that this height has to accommodate both your lower bun and everything you're going to put onto this up to the egg. If it doesn't fit very well, then this is going to end up sitting all cattywampus on top of it because you can't shut down all the way. That's not the end of the world because I did do that on a couple of my test cooks that you'll see here in a couple of minutes, and the weight of the top lid kind of holds it down and compresses everything and actually probably helps it cook a little bit. Anyway, once you lower this top ring, this slide-in portion here is to hold your egg. So you would crack your raw egg, throw it into here, give it a quick little mix, and then your top layer of bread goes straight on top of that. From there, you just close this up, set your amount of time, which for me is about 4.5 minutes, pretty much for every sandwich I tested. And then you just kind of let it sit just like that and wait, and once it gets done, you pop this back open, slide these little guys back out in order to remove the space between the bottom of the egg and the top of your meat. And then you can systematically lift these up, poke down the top bun, and push it through this ring all the way through until you just have your sandwich sitting there, and then you would scoop it up and put it on a plate and you're ready to eat. Now, here is what I mean about the plugging in of the thing. First of all, this power cord is short as hell. That's really all you get, so I might not even be able to reach my plug from here. In fact, I can't, so I've got to pull this back a little bit, plug that in, just like that. And now you can see that the sandwich maker is on and preheating. That is the extent of the control that we have on this machine. Period. So now all we gotta do is sit here and wait until it preheats. Once it gets to the target temperature, the preheat light right here turns on, and that's how you know you're ready to cook. For reference, that took 2 minutes and 30 seconds from being cold. Now at this point, you'd load up the cooker the way I was showing you a few minutes ago, and you set the amount of time. Remember, once again, this timer has nothing to do with the cooking of your stuff. This is just a reference for you. In fact, you don't even need to use the timer if you're just gonna use a stopwatch or something like that on your phone. But if you want to use it, you just push these buttons, and this will go up in increments of half minutes. So that right there is 3 minutes, that's 3.5, that's 4, and that's 4.5. Once you let that go, it'll start counting down on its own and it'll beep at you a whole bunch of times once it's done. And that is the entire way that this machine works. Alright, so with any review, you can't have a good review unless you do a bunch of product testing now, can you? Since this machine has the ability to cook 2 sandwiches at the same time, I use that to make different kinds of sandwiches on each side. That way we get through this a lot faster, I could test more stuff, and I take less of your time. Keep in mind that everything I tested I did cook for 4.5 minutes, so you figure the 4.5 minutes to cook plus the 2.5 minutes of preheat time makes every sandwich that I tested take 7 minutes total. You can play around with that for your preferences, but for the purposes of the review, just figure all of the sandwiches are 7 minutes and be done with it. Hey, by the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool new recipes, get some great cooking tips and tricks and all sorts of other kitchen related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. Okay, for our first test, we'll just use what I made during the unboxing video in order to test the machine out initially. That was basically a copy of a McDonald's Sausage McMuffin with egg. I used regular English muffins, a large egg on each side, some pre-cooked Jimmy Dean sausages just kind of layered into the machine. In retrospect, I probably should have cut them down so they would sit flat, and some American cheese slices. Then I closed up the machine and 4.5 minutes later, my sandwiches were done, and you can see they are a complete and total mess with cheese melted all over the place. The main reason for that is the soft American cheese. That type of cheese is way too light and way too soft in order to use on this, and it just kind of turns into soup almost immediately. Plus I used 2 slices of cheese on each side, which made it even worse. You can cut down the time and the cheese doesn't get quite as bad. The biggest problem is if I cut down the time to save that cheese a little bit more, then the sausage probably won't get all the way hot or you'll undercook the egg. Also, you can see that the egg is cooking into that top layer of bread a little bit. Those are actually the directions that come from Hamilton Beach to make these sandwiches. So you're going to see in a lot of these tests that that egg just kind of mixes into that top bread. The crispness on the bread was pretty good. The top and bottom are both crispy, but definitely the bottom piece of bread is more crispy than the top. Anyway, they tasted good, but they look like hell. For the second test, I made the sausage muffins with egg again, except this time instead of using the American cheese, I used shredded sharp cheddar. And the sharp cheddar is what I used for all the tests going forward. Both sides got egg, pre-cooked sausage, except this time it was cut down properly to fit onto the bread the way it should. Except this time we changed it up a tiny bit and used a sourdough English muffin on the left side and a traditional English muffin on the right side. Once those got done, you can see that the results were 1,000 times better than they were using that American cheese. Nothing's burning off, everything looks pretty good. All the contents are hot and the cheese is actually cooked really nice. Pretty good sandwiches, but again, that egg is cooked into that top piece of English muffin on both of these again. For the third test, for test number 3, I changed it up a little bit more. On the left side, I used brioche bread. I put in Canadian bacon slices along with some of that cheddar cheese, and again the egg. On the right side I used a mini bagel, some Black Forest ham and a little bit of bacon, the cheese again, and some egg. Once these came out, you can see that the results are a little bit different. The brioche actually looks like it's a little bit burned, but it really isn't, it's just really dark. The brioche bread is really light and it's got a higher sugar content, so it's gonna get dark a little bit easier than other breads. The bagel's got a nice sear on it too, but that looks a lot better. The sandwiches both came out really tasty though. The Canadian bacon, the ham, and the regular bacon slices were all really good. Remember, those bacon slices are the pre-cooked refrigerated type that you get in the supermarket, because again, you can't put raw stuff into this machine. At the end of the day though, the sandwiches were pretty good. For the fourth test, on the left side, I put in a keto bun, a couple of slices of pre-cooked bacon, the cheddar cheese again, and a little bit of egg. But on the right side, we're gonna try a little experiment that was recommended by one of our viewers. I put in a regular English muffin, threw on some ham, Canadian bacon, and cheese, put the egg into the top section, except this time, instead of putting the top piece of English muffin on there, I just started the machine up with no bun on top, and waited for about half of my cooking cycle. After that, I opened it back up, put that top piece of English muffin on there and close it back up. That way the egg will be cooked a little bit and it'll have a little bit of firmness to it, and hopefully we wouldn't have any egg cooking into that top piece of bread. Once this test got done, you can see the results were pretty good. The keto bread side came out pretty much the way you'd expect it to. Again, a little bit on the dark side, but not too bad. And on the right side, this sandwich came out so much better than it did before. You can see that that egg is nice and firm. It's not bleeding into that top piece of bread at all. However, since we didn't put that bread on until later, that top piece is not toasted anywhere near as much as the bottom. There's a pretty distinct difference between the top and that one. However, it is cooked enough to get a little bit of crunch on it. After that test, I decided to see exactly how long it would take for me just to make my own on the side. So I preheated a large skillet, put a tiny bit of oil on it, let that come up to temperature, and then I put my own raw sausage patty onto the skillet, along with an egg and a couple of slices of bacon. I let all that stuff cook up, and later on in the cook, I used the oil from the bacon to grease the pan a little bit better so I could toast my English muffins right in that. Also, right near the end, I took everything else out, put a little bit of my cheddar cheese on top of my sausage patty that I made, and put the lid onto the pan in order to melt that cheese. Once that was done, I was able to construct my breakfast sandwich, and the entire process for that, including the preheat, took me 13.5 minutes. And here is how that came out. To me, the results were just a lot better. The sausage tastes a lot better to me fresh like that. The egg is better, and I got a lot crispier bacon as well. If you look at the difference between my sandwich and the best sandwich that we got out of the Hamilton Beach, which was the one that we let the egg cook separately in there, you can see a pretty distinct difference between the two. Also, as far as cleanup goes, it was a heck of a lot easier to do it myself because the only thing I really had to clean up was the one saute pan. Really, the only downside is the fact that it did take me 13.5 minutes. So it's almost double the time it takes to use the machine. Also, if you're using the Hamilton Beach, you can cook 2 at a time, whereas I was only able to do 1. I could have fixed that by just using a second pan, but that also doubles the amount of pans that I have to clean up, and it makes it a little bit less convenient. However, it really does depend on what your priorities are. Well, the Hamilton Beach breakfast sandwich maker is a little bit of a mixed bag for me. Yes, it's fast, really convenient, and easy to clean up, but at least in my case, since you're stuck using pre-prepared, pre-cooked meats, it really limits the ability for you to make a nice, freshly cooked breakfast. After all, that's kind of the point of doing it yourself with fresh ingredients at home. But that's just my opinion, and the circumstances might be a little bit different for you. If you'd like a little bit more information about the Hamilton Beach breakfast sandwich maker, I do have an Amazon affiliate link for it down in the description of the video. If you buy anything through those links, I do make a small commission, but it doesn't change the price that you pay 1 cent. Hey, Joe's Phenomenal now has channel memberships. For most people, you can see a join button down below the video window that you can click and see what type of perks I'm offering. If you're using an iOS device, you might not be able to see it, and if that's the case, I do have a link down in the description of the video as well. If you like this video, then you might like my review right here for the Ninja Double Stack XL Air Fryer. That can also make quick, convenient meals without a whole lot of mess. Well, that's it for now. I hope to see you back again here really soon. Until that time, I'm Joe, and I hope you have a phenomenal day. Take it easy.